Good morning. It is 10:33 a.m. Close enough. It is Sunday, and that means it is time for Sunday Club, a weekly Ruby on Rails live stream where each week we look at a different aspect of Ruby on Rails programming or coding and what it takes to get a Ruby on Rails application live. And the application that we work on each week is ticketing and event registration application. Where hopefully we will build an app that people can sign up. Event organizers can kind of put in the details of their event, and then people can sign up to take part in them, pay for tickets, and most importantly, book to take part in groups. And we do a little bit every week, so we're moving at a pretty glacial pace, but that's okay. And we just use the stream to explore different services around Rails, coding stuff, domain modeling, just whatever we fancy around Rails. So let's get into it. The last few weeks we have looked at hosting providers, and those and all of the archive are in the YouTube archive for this channel. So if you are interested in looking at Heroku versus the other one that we looked at, which was ended in Scalingo, I know it ended in Go. You can check those streams out on the YouTube archive. So I kind of wanted to keep us moving forward on the application, and I don't have any other follow-up. I haven't managed to kind of do anything else for the channel this week. Been busy doing other things, and I thought we would kind of move ahead with what was on our Notion board. So with that, let's sort of dive right in. I'm just going to move over to our other screen. All right, so let's bump this size up a little bit. So this is our Notion board where we just kind of have things that we want to address, and you can find links to this in the YouTube video descriptions. There's not a lot in here at the moment. We'll kind of flesh this out when we do another planning session. But also thank you to the person that left a comment saying that there's a backlog board as well of things we also want to tackle. And I had forgotten to make that board public, but these are both public. There's nothing particularly of any interest in there at the moment, but we will use these moving forward. So this is an interesting task to move forward on, which is send a confirmation email to a user on a successful order. So we haven't written anything up for this. There's no user story or any diligence or anything fun like that, anything useful. Just a note to ourselves that this is something that we want to tackle. So we've got a hosting provider. We've got our application live somewhere on Heroku. I've already forgotten the domain, but it's there. And it's all very scratch at the moment, but we sort of want to make it real. We want to do real things with our application. And so an email provider is going to be one of the things we want to do. And I thought this would give us a good chance to kind of talk about and touch on a couple of different things which I've bumped into in applications, and sort of have things that I've enjoyed and things that I haven't enjoyed when I've done this kind of stuff in the past. So we want to look at providers and maybe some pros and cons as to what we might want to look at when we're picking a new provider. I want to look at delivery methods, and I want to look at interceptors. So these are Rails things, delivery methods and interceptors, whereas providers, this is ESPs. So that they're kind of called email service providers, ESPs. All right, so let's get into this first, ESPs. And so I did a quick Google. I did some research. So email provider for Ruby on Rails, email provider for Ruby on Rails free tier, which is what I was looking for specifically. You can tell I did a lot of research. I opened the first thread that was available, and it was a Reddit thread, but it's actually pretty recent. It's from only 9 months ago. And a few hundred people have voted here. And these are some pretty common ESPs that you're going to see. It's not a comprehensive list. This is not all. So there is an other category, and there are other ones out there. And then there are some people commenting on things they've enjoyed and not enjoyed about their ESPs in the past. So AWS, Postmark. These are all the ones from the list above. SendGrid, Mandrill, Mailgun, all these different types of one. All right, so if you've never done this before and you've kind of come across this stream, or you're looking for things to Google, what difference does it make what provider you pick? Like, why does it matter which one you pick? Like, you just need to get emails out the door. There are like, what factors would I take into account for an ESP provider? So pricing is going to be one. Deliverability, which I'll come back to in a second. Which I guess includes sort of like custom IPs, support, reporting. And these are just off the top of my head, so this isn't going to be a comprehensive list of things I would consider. Reporting and dashboards. What's the phrase I'm going to look for, which is like stuff they make you do. I'm going to circle back to what I mean by that in a moment, but like forced, I guess forced tracking is something that headers and things like that. And what else would I look at? The API, obviously, that's pretty standard. You could look at for any kind of third-party provider. That's an initial list of things I would consider. There's probably more, but I'm not going to try and cover everything here. So pricing is usually done in volume metrics, like the number of emails that you send. Whether or not there's a free tier is something I was looking at earlier. Some providers will give you a free tier for a limited period, so you get X thousand emails from your application free, but only for the first 5 months, and you start getting paid, or X months. And that is what it is. You'll know roughly how many emails, or maybe you won't know, but you'll have a sense after a period of time how many emails your app is going to send regularly. And also something you're slightly in control of. At what point are you going to email your users? Each time you introduce a new email to the user, you're adding that to your monthly, weekly, daily volume. So you're slightly in control of the volume. Maybe you're not. Maybe every user you have needs a receipt email, and you get 1 million orders a month. So you're going to send 1 million emails minimum. So that's something to consider. If you are in those kind of bulk ranges, you can reach out to them and get discounts. So deliverability is an interesting one. So by default on cheaper packages, you will often end up on a shared IP address for your email to go out on. That means that your emails will be sent using the same IP address as lots of other people's emails. And with email service providers, they can sometimes get blocked for spam purposes or anything like that. And you can get slightly stung by that. What you can do is there are definitely things you can do to improve your deliverability. So you want to look into things like DKIM records, and every deliverability tool that the ESPs provide, they'll usually have an area of their settings, which is like, hey, make sure that all of your things are configured correctly, and they'll give you lots of green ticks, and they'll have documentation for you to do. So you definitely want to do all of that. But above and beyond that, there might be things that are out of your control. And ESPs will generally have people you can speak to through their support team or something like that as to what's happening. But on their cheaper tiers, you're sort of sometimes at the mercy of what they provide. And a mechanism that they give to get you out of that is to have custom IP addresses for your sending. But they will sometimes invariably charge for that. And the price bump is then, hey, I'm paying, maybe only a few pounds a month for just the standard shared provider, but then I'm paying considerably more for a custom IP address, or and that might be something you want to take into account. Again, this sort of goes onto your the pricing you pay and the volumes that you're sending. One of the things that you will get sort of rewarded for is being consistently sending your emails through the same IPs that then are interacted with by your users. So the ESPs, like the email, sorry, not the ESPs, but like the email providers like Google, Microsoft, people like that. They want to see you sending out emails. They want to see that people clicking on those emails and responding to them well, opening them, reading them in a good percentage. So they want your emails to be of high quality, and they want very few spam reports. That's what they're looking for. And the providers actually provide tools for you to look into this. So there is Google Postmaster tools. Let me make a note of some of these that you can take a look at. Google Postmaster tools, and the other one is NDS. What is that? Oh, I can't remember. Outlook. Is it SND? I can't remember the acronym. Yes, here we go. SNDS, Smart Network Data Services. So this is deliverability to Outlook.com, and Outlook is Microsoft and Office and all of that stuff. So you can tell them your IP address, and they will give you a per day reporting for how many they think you sent, how many got marked as spam, anything that you should be concerned about. And then Google Postmaster tools is it looks better, like it's better reporting. The SNDS one is rough. Google is kind of fine. It's just a slightly better visualized version of the same data. And this goes back to this idea of deliverability. They're like, hey, how many emails do we think you're sending us from this domain regularly? And how many people are interacting with them? How many people are marking them as spam? And so the incentive here is for your emails to be great. They could just be password reset emails, but ideally they would be like, hey, here's a relevant email to whatever app I'm running. And they would be, the user would be like, oh, cool, I really need to click on this to discover this thing. And I definitely won't mark it as spam. Support, you might not know about this until you start signing up, but you might want to fire in a couple of support tickets and see what the response is like initially. I don't know how representative that actually is of a real support issue, because your questions are likely to be fairly straightforward to start with, whereas when you really get into the weeds of it, you might not be dealing with frontline support. Reporting and dashboards. Each provider has a different approach to this. I think someone in this Reddit thread kind of indicated it's like AWS is a great, sort of a great, I would say AWS, blah, 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 blah. But my understanding is they don't then give you all of the reporting and cool graphs and click metrics and things like that, which you might want from some of the other providers. But you're potentially going to pay more for the other providers, because I think AWS is one of the cheaper volume-based providers. Force tracking and headers. So some providers will put link tracking. So if you, let's say that your website is, myapp.com, they might swap out myapp.com for their link forwarder so that they can do click tracking. And so what would happen is they would put in, I don't know, like link.to or something like that. And then when you would click on it, then when the user clicks on it, there's a hop. They get sent to the ESP server, so they register the click so they can report it back to you, and then moved on to the actual where the link actually goes. There's two things to consider about that. One is that you are going to get that data back. You're going to see it in your click reporting, but also you're giving it to the ESP. So do you want them to be putting their link tracking in there? And also, it's an external dependency for your emails. If their link forwarding service goes down, none of the links in your emails will work. So you might want the data and deem that a worthwhile external dependency. You might not, and say, no, I want to turn that off. And can you turn that off is a question that you want to check in the docs for the service provider or something like that. There's other stuff where there's things like headers that you can put in your emails that will trigger different behaviors in different email clients. So if you ever see the unsubscribe kind of button within an email client, there's a header you can use. So email header, what's it called? I can't remember what the actual header is. It's list-unsubscribe, that's it. So you can actually see here. you can see list dash unsubscribe mail to, and then what list dash unsubscribe does is you can put in a mail to link, and it will actually the email client will look at this header. It will look at you can put an email address in there, and then it will unsubscribe. It will behind the scenes, it will send an email, and the email client knows not to show anything to the user. It will just behind the scenes send an email, and then the ESP will provide that as an unsubscribe link. You might want to disable that because you might not support unsubscribing on the ESP side. You might only support unsubscribing in your application, because if the user unsubscribes in your ESP, is that preference reflected in your application? That's kind of like considering we're at the early stages, that's quite a complex question to ask at this stage, but it is really worth considering, like, can you turn that off? What are the implications of turning it on? Do you end up with people that are unsubscribed on your ESP, and therefore if you were to switch ESP, you would resubscribe them, which would be sort of potentially a GDPR issue and things like that. So that's what I mean by force tracking and headers, just things that you want to consider. And then obviously the API is something you want to read about in advance, and there's other stuff you're going to want to look into for all of that stuff. Okay, that was hopefully useful for someone. I didn't know I was going to be able to do that off the top of my head. I'm pretty happy with that list. That's some information about ESPs. All right, so what did I do next? I then Googled some of these email providers. So Postmark, I have used, like, I'm going to put this bit up front. I've used a bunch of these. So Postmark I have used and had a good experience. It was fine. I don't remember it particularly, but I don't remember having a bad experience. We sent thousands of emails, not hundreds of thousands. It was for like a short-term project, but it worked just fine. And I had zero feedback, like would happily use again. Mailgun I have signed up to a couple times to experiment with, but never actually used on a live project. It seemed fine. People really like it. Kind of make of that we with. So I'm going to come back to this one in a second. The one that tends to pop up the most is SendGrid. Now, SendGrid I have used a lot for a couple of different reasons. One, I have used SendGrid a bunch, but also they bought Twilio, or Twilio bought them. I can't remember which way around it is. And Twilio is an SMS and WhatsApp API provider. And so I've sort of used both of these services, and now they're sort of combined. I have had differing experiences with SendGrid at different scales, but one of the scales at which I've struggled the most with SendGrid is very small scale. Essentially, the IPs that they were trying to send small volumes of emails through were so kind of like consistently blocked by providers. And the only feedback we got from support was sort of, you need to buy an IP address. And the price then jumped really high, which was, up to someone else to make the decision, but it was just a fairly small scale project, and it's kind of frustrating to get that experience. So maybe we would have been better on a smaller provider that we could have kind of had more of a conversation with support or something like that. At scale, SendGrid is what it is. It's been it sort of works. We send support requests in, fine. But it is very large. I mean, you can see the list of customers. I mean, imagine how many emails Uber sends on a day. Like, that's SendGrid. Yeah. Okay. So I think also from listening to a couple of podcasts, I think SendGrid is actually the provider under the hood for quite a lot of the next layer. Once you have the ESP layer, there's also then like the layers on top with things like those marketing automation tools where they put a layer on top. Loads of those will use like SendGrid under the hood. I think they're pretty popular in that space. Another one that I do use at the moment is SparkPost. And the best thing I can say about SparkPost is I never think about it. Like, it does the thing that I pay for it to do, and I don't ever think about it. Like, it works. It seems pretty solid. I very, very seldom have anything like downtime or API issues or anything like that. Yeah, I think the best feedback I can give is that I've never had to interact with it in any way. It's sort of like a fairly, like, the email demands for that project have kind of gone up and down over the years, but it is what it is. I actually forgot to look at the pricing for this. Do they have a free tier here? I doubt it, because it was sort of on the more expensive end. Spot quote pricing. Here we go. So test. No, but you can get to like 50,000 emails for $20 a month, which would be like, what, 15 quid, 15, 16 quid, I would guess. And yeah, I just don't think about it. So that's pretty good. Right. That's a bunch of providers, which you can then look into. Again, you want to then compare all of these factors across all of them. However, the one I looked into was this MailPace, and I got it from this thread, and I had heard about Oh My SMTP, which I have. This is someone else's feedback about SendGrid, which is actively hostile to non-massive enterprise customers. So that my feedback was a little gentler, which is that I had struggled at a smaller scale, but this is a more aggressive version of that same feedback, I think. So Oh My SMTP is something I had heard of before, and I can't remember where I had heard of them. But what I like about them is two things. One, they have a free tier, which we want to just have an example application, so we're fine with that. And the other thing is that they're hosted in the EU, which I like a lot, because that might save us a little bit of GDPR compliance issues from here in the UK. So they have, I thought they had a free tier. Maybe I am wrong. Oh, maybe it's $250 a month. I thought I had seen a free one. Yeah, maybe I had misread that actually. All right, well, maybe we can. Yeah, I must have misread it. Okay, that's nice. Do any of them have a free tier? Just because the pace we're working on this application, it's going to be 15 years before we get it in any way functional. One thing I've ever actually, I have never actually used AWS. So I mean, this could be a call to action for that. I don't really. Yeah, do I have to handle everything myself is sort of what I'm wondering here, like most Amazon services. Okay, there is some, I mean, how much is it? We want, yeah. So it's 10 cents for every 1,000. You get 60. Holy shit! If you host on EC2, you get 62 for 1,000 for free. So that's $1 for 10,000 emails. I mean, that's pretty good. The other pricing we just saw was 10,000 was $10 here, and 10,000 would be $1 here. So it is literally a tenth of the price. This one is 10,000 for. It doesn't actually say how much it costs to do 10,000, because it jumps you straight to 50. Oh, here we go. $1 for 1,000, so it'll be $10 a month for the $10,000. Got 10,000 emails. Sorry. Okay, so it is way cheaper. What does it look like? maybe Get log in, verify an identity for sending email, send your first email. Do we really want to try that? Maybe we can just use mail paste for now. And maybe I'm interested in exploring this on a subsequent because I'm assuming this is just pure volume basis. So there's no standing fee, whereas all of these other providers, you're paying whether you send any emails or not. Like if you're just paying a monthly fee. And there doesn't seem to be any like discount to go annual here. What is Bimmy? Oh, this is the new thing from Google. Okay. Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's try mail paste first, just because I'm already on the way. And then, but I am really curious about just doing Amazon SES because I've always sort of got to this stage and been like, no, if it's for a client project or for work or whatever it is, like you want to use a real provider. But we oh no, actually, I want to go back. We're going to do this as rather than the. Just a note on this. This is onboarding organization. This is the type of onboarding we would need on the GoodTix application to have organizations join. So it's like, hey, create organization, and then everything is under that organization. This is the highest level of domain model that they've got. So we're going to need to do the same thing. So we're going to do. I think it's .com. Okay, now I'm gonna need to add that in, and I'm on the other screen gonna go to. I'm gonna do this off stream. Just bear with me a second. And we had to do this recently for something else, and I can't remember what it was, but didn't take too long. Maybe I haven't got the. Okay, maybe. Okay, maybe we haven't actually got the domain set up anyway yet. I've got the Sunday Club one done, which is what I needed to do recently. But I don't think I've actually got the domain pointed anywhere. Hang on a second. Let me let's find this out. Maybe we're going back a step. I'm doing this all off stream just because I'm going to be in the account where I have the domain name, which must be in here. I'm just going to see where the GoodTix domain name is pointing. I don't think it's doing anything at all. Domain list. Okay, so domain, manage that domain. It's doing nothing. What happens if we go to our domain name? Oh, Namecheaper just making money off us. Boo. Okay, well, we don't like that. That's not great. Okay, so let's get that working as well, I guess. Because we can't. Well, we could just do this with. Okay, we can do this because the existing provider does give us access to the DNS for that. We just haven't pointed them anywhere. Okay, so let's get this up. So we actually can do this here. So let's say we're on a TXT record. Yeah, I'm just doing this off stream. I'm gonna copy this. Not too bothered about having this on the stream screen because it will be public. TXT Records will be public on the domain. Okay, so we've added that, but it will take a while to arrive. Oh, what do you... So we're kind of stuck here. This is kind of a little bit annoying because this record will take a while to appear against that domain. And you're a bit stuck. It would be like some of the tools give you the idea of like you say verify, and then it's like, okay, well, it's not there yet. So what we'll do is we will check every X minutes, and then we'll email you when it's good. And if it takes more than a bit of time, they'll come back and be like, hey, it didn't work. That's good. That's only taken a few minutes. All right, here we go. So okay, so it is billed annually. It was £2.50 a month. And I said, oh, there's no annual option, but there actually is only an annual option. And there is no free tier. Do I have to pay in advance? Because I don't really want to do that right now. Yeah, I think it's about to charge me up front. They all used to have really high free tiers. I missed I missed that day. Because Mandrill used to have such a high free tier. It was like 10,000 a month freebie. I'm just going to pull this tab out of here so I can put my postcode in, see what it does next. Yeah, it's just going to charge me right up front. Okay, well, should we go explore Amazon? Yeah, let's leave this tab in here and then go and explore Amazon for a second. So I want to... I'm going to make an Amazon account. I'm going to do that off screen. Loads of off screen stuff today, but we're making new accounts, so I'm not too bothered. But this one I'm really curious about. So I've always kind of thought about doing this. And trying out SES, and I've never gotten around to it. And this will be a good little dip our toe in the water. Right, they're going to send me an email to confirm my... Okay, and then I'm going to type that in. I'm going to create a password. Continue step 1 of 5. Personal. Are they going to make me put in all of my details? All right, you might have to wait a second because they're just going to make me... Make me give them everything in the entire world. I'm going to check this is off stream. Yeah, okay, I'm going to take this Namecheap one down because that's annoying. Okay, I have read the agreement, yes. Okay, they are going to make me put billing information in the AWS one, but I am going to do that because at least this billing will be... usage based. Okay, bear with me. Are they going to charge me $1 as a test? Okay, fine. Now I have to verify this. Okay, well, this is one of the reasons why. I mean, I'm joking, but I'm glad all this security stuff is here and people, like, it really takes a lot to do some fraud now. You kind of have to convince the customer these days to do their own fraud. So we're going to get a text message to confirm my phone. And we've got one of those super unreadable Amazon captures. Gonna get a code. I'm on step 4 or 5, so we should be done in a second. Don't panic that this is gonna be the rest of the stream. Okay, so select a support plan. This is interesting. Bump this up. Basic support free. Developer support, $29 a month. Recommended for developers with AWS. Email access to AWS support during business hours. Business support, $100 a month. Those aren't crazy amounts of money. I love that it goes from $100 a month. So you get 24/7 email, phone, and chat with a 1-hour response time. Pretty good. And that's $100 a month. So what some people would think is a lot of money, I think that's actually not bad for what that is. Especially email, phone, and chat. I don't know the quality of what you're getting there, but pretty good. The jump is from $100 a month to $15K. Like, that's... Yeah, that's you sort of like wonder where these companies make their money. And they're like, why do they give a shit about any of the people down here where they're like, oh, hey, I'm paying $29 a month. Where's my service? And they can point to someone else and be like, they're paying $15,000 a month. And they probably reach out like, by the time you're paying $15K a month, you have your own team of engineers. The odds of you reaching out are even lower because your team are probably experts. So like you're only reaching out in really, really tech support or like, you know, looking for that one-to-one guidance on like using a new service or something like that. I don't know, it was interesting. We're going to go with free for now because I don't want to pay for anything right now. Pretty cool little rocket sign. We're activating your account, which should only take a few minutes. You will receive an email when this is complete. Go to the console. I don't know if I can put an AWS console on the stream because I don't think it shows any keys or anything by default, right? I can't remember what's on there. This is some of the stuff we'll need to figure out as we start to use some of these services, but... okay. I'm just trying to sign in. They have to activate my account. I'm just waiting to see if they have done that yet. Okay, great. Well, okay, well, I can turn here. There's nothing in here. So I don't want to be in North Virginia. I want to be in London. Well, there's nothing in here. So this is what an empty AWS dashboard looks like because I've just made it. So you can access all AWS services here. There are sections for recently visited. And you can save your favorite services too. So next. Choose your preferred language, set a default region and manage other console settings within your account from here. Done. Okay, fine. So this is it. Okay, great. So we want email stuff. Launch a virtual machine, start development project. How many services do they have in here now? Because it's pretty crazy. So we want email. We want SES, I think. Welcome to the new SES console experience. The classic console has been deprecated and replaced by the new SES console. The new console is designed for faster access to information, offers new features and functionality like account dashboard, default configuration, account level suppression list, 2048-bit DKIM keys, and more. Let us know what you think. Okay, create identity. Domain. So we're going to enter our domain, assign a default configuration set. Enabling this option ensures that the assigned configuration set, it's a bit bigger, is applied to messages sent from this identity by default whenever a configuration set isn't specified at the time of sending. I don't know what that means yet. Is that like a bunch of default headers? Gonna leave that off because it's off by default and I don't know what it means. Use a custom mail from domain. Configuring a custom mail from domain for messages sent from this identity enables the mail from address to align with the from address. Domain alignment must be achieved in order to be DMARC compliant. Okay, so I think we can come back and do these later. This is DKIM stuff, so this is what we were talking about earlier. Where you can you can modify a DNS record on your domain to prove that it's you sending the email. Tags, okay. All right, let's just do that. Domain verification in Amazon SCS is now based on DKIM. Eliminating the need for TXT records. TXT is what we were using on the other provider we just looked at. Domain identities that were verified using TXT records do not need to be re-verified, however we will recommend. Summary for good ticks. Okay. Okay, so we are going to need to set up these records. Do we get like a, hey, this is working? Yeah, verification pending. Okay, so that's fine. On our other screen, I've still got the domain thing up, so we can copy this. I'm going to do these one by one. So let's, hopefully these will be as quick as the other one. Okay, so it's that and that. Save. Add the second one. Okay, this is not thrilling to watch, but it is what it is. So we're going to add new record. It's a CNAME record. We're going to copy this. I'll take this part off. Then we're going to copy this. Set that. Right, we're going to add a new record again. Third one, last one. I'm going to copy this. And we're going to copy this. And that. And do that. Okay, great. So those three are set. After you've committed your detection of these records may take up to 72 hours. Okay. We might have to wait then. Okay, so let's take a look through what else we've got in here. Notifications. To monitor your sending activity more broadly, SCS recommends enabling event publishing using configuration sets by adding event destinations to a configuration. This is the Amazon experience. It's like, hey, here are domain concepts that you have to know before reading this help prompt. Like you have to go and click on configuration set because otherwise this prompt is not going to be relevant. And only once you then have a full grasp of the domain concepts in it, in whatever Amazon tool you're talking about, everything makes loads of sense. You're like, oh yes, it's a configuration set, blah, blah, blah. And I also find this a pain in the ass coming back to an Amazon service where I have not worked in it recently. My memory of the names of anything in there really fades. So, okay, what's the configuration set? it doesn't take you to the docs for it. It just takes you to the page where it's there. Okay, fine. And in their defense, like there is always docs. And you just, I find it a bit like code. You sort of go back up the definitions. It's like, okay, well, I need this, and then it's like, okay, well, I need to find out what it's talking about with a configuration set. So what is that? What does that look like? Configuration sets. Here we go. Oh, just configuration sets are groups of rules that you can apply to your verified identity. So a verified identity, I'm guessing, is like the domain we're trying to set up. Oh, here we go. A verified identity is a domain, subdomain, or email address used to send through SES. Bump this font size up. You can use configuration sets to apply the following types of rules to your email sending, and can contain one, both, or neither of these types. Event destinations allow you to publish email sending metrics, including the numbers of sends, deliveries, open clicks, and bounces, and complaints to other Amazon AWS products for each email you send. This goes back to what we were saying earlier about like the other email providers providing you the dashboards and tools for the sends and AWS not giving you that. So here you can just fire it into another tool, but you still have to do the work to do something with it. I mean, you could pump it, I assume, into your own Rails application and build your own dashboard. But for £2.50 a month, for 30 quid a year, someone else could take that problem away for you. And it is worth that amount of time. This is the IP pool management. We talked about IP addresses earlier on. Okay, cool. That just needs time and going through. Okay, fine. Feedback, notifications, bounce, complaint. So this is the idea that when one of these three things happen, you probably want to know about it or care about it in some way, but you have to configure that existing. So if you're getting a lot of spam complaints, you want to know about it. Again, this is the type of thing where we spoke earlier about Amazon, Google's Postmaster Services, and Microsoft's SNDS or whatever it's called. They're going to tell you about these things post them happening. So they're delayed by 24 hours, 48 hours, whatever it is. You want to know if you've sent an email out, for example, that is, I don't know, errant, like you shouldn't have sent it, and you get loads of spam complaints. You want those notifications to appear somewhere and alert you. Those other services are going to tell you after you've already been blocked. So that's a problem for you. Okay, cool. That's all the notifications. That all makes a lot of sense. Authorization is, I'm guessing, all of the fun policies that you can set up in. Yeah. So this is what users can do what in AWS in general, and it's the wonderful resource and actions and all of that fun stuff that you get in AWS. That's a whole world in and of itself. Configuration sets and tags. Okay, this is actually pretty. Oh, here we go. We're configured. We are configured, so we can now send emails. But I'm guessing we can't send emails. I'm guessing we have to create a policy and have a user. We would need an AWS account, so we would probably want to go into IAM and set that up. Give them this one, I would guess. Give them this permission, send email. Okay, yeah, I get all that stuff. That's just normal AWS stuff. How do you actually send an email? This is like send test email. That's pretty cool. Scenario. Successful delivery. Subject. Test. Oops. And test. Who am I sending it to? Oh. Success at Simulator Amazon SES. So reputation metrics. You get a bounce rate stat. You get a complaint rate stat. Okay, that's not nothing. Why do I only have 200 sends? Am I limited by something? Do I have to do some sort of verification? Oh, in a... Oh, okay. So I'm in Sandbox and I have to request production access. Okay. Okay, fine. I think this isn't worth the extra work, personally. This is all making sense and is great, but I don't think it's worth the extra... Just going to Google around. Setting up Rails to send emails with Amazon SES. Amazon SES is, in my opinion, this is from David Morales. Amazon SES is, in my opinion, the first choice for small and medium web applications. Initially, all users are placed in the Amazon SES sandbox, a test environment to ensure the quality of service and avoid fraud. This has real limiting quotas for big applications, so requests must be filled to Amazon support to move out of the sandbox and get higher limits. Okay. So what was the limit we bumped into in sandbox? 200 a day. Okay, so we're not going to bump into that while we're in our little test email. So, and that's 1 email per second is also limited as well. And you have to ask for more. Okay. Verify your domain. We've done that. Creating SMTP credentials. In order to use Amazon SES to send you emails, you will need to authenticate using an SMTP endpoint. Do you need to use SMTP? I'm going to come back to that. Please go to your SMTP settings page in your SES console. Okay, do we have Amazon SES? SMTP settings. Okay, cool. That. You must have an Amazon SES SMTP username and password to access the SMTP interface. These credentials are different from your AWS access keys and are unique to each region. To manage SMTP, visits the IAM console. Okay, so I want to open that in a new window and just pull that onto the other screen in case it has default keys in it. Okay. This form lets you create an IAM user for SMTP authentication with Amazon SES. Enter the name of a new IAM user or accept the defaults. Amazon SES uses AWS IAM to manage SMTP credentials. This is like one of those seminars where they're like, hey, can you not use acronyms to help new people? This is like Amazon, like, yeah, sure. The IAM username is case sensitive, blah, 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 blah. The new user will be granted the following IAM policy. So allow action, send raw email, resource start. Okay, fine. So this is basically just setting up an IAM user. This is, okay, fine. Your one user has been created successfully. Great. So now I have a user with some credentials. Okay. So do you only get SMTP, or can you do AWS SES API? I mean, that's just a ridiculous thing to Google. It's all acronyms. Okay, so is there an API is where I was going with this. The SES API provides the send mail action, which lets you compose and send a formatted emails. Okay, so this potentially goes to what's that part of then? It's the SES API in general. Okay. Okay, fine. So here's the API request. Do they have like send raw, send templated? So is there AWS, SES, Ruby, Gem? Is there one of the... Right, so in the AWS SDK, there's an SES namespace. Okay, so then you get a client, and then you must get, I'm assuming, all of these endpoints. Send email. Okay, great. So this method here in the AWS SDK, I'm assuming is mapped to, oops, where we were here, which is send email. And so you can use this. So why am I looking at that? So the reason that I'm looking at that is in here, we put delivery methods. And inside the tutorial that we looked up really quickly, we had this idea of creating SMTP credentials. So what this tutorial does is sets up SMTP credentials for the SES account and then uses them in the action mailer config, right? So it's here's the address, here's the username, and here's the password. And that is mapping the IAM user that was just created with the correct permission, that send email, to this SMTP API, which is great. That's fine. You don't have to use the SMTP config to send emails from Action Mailer. So it's basically a choice as to whether you want to do it, and there are trade-offs. There are other ways that you can do it. And what you can do is Rails custom delivery methods. Are they in the default docs? Maybe I want. Okay, So I'm pretty sure this is the API I've used in the past here. So these are mailer delivery methods. Send mail can be configured by using. Maybe this is oh, this is done now. Maybe my knowledge is out of date. This is from 2014, so that's probably not ideal. This is from 2021. What's this one? Yeah, okay, this is sort of how I would approach this. So what you can do is write a class that responds to the deliver method for action mailer, register this new mailer class, and then update the config.delivery method to use your new class. And what that means is that you don't need to use SMTP, the kind of built-in way to send emails in Action Mailer. You can use the Action Mailer API, so you can say, hey, deliver this mail, and use all of the same, like you build the mail class or mail instance, whatever that thing is, can't remember. And you give it like from, to, subject, everything. But you then take that and you then post it to, in this case, Mailgun. But in our, it might be AWS Simple Email Service. And you can do more stuff in here. So what I mean by stuff, you might want to modify the headers. You might want to store stuff. You might want to do custom logging. You might want to do whatever you need to do in there. And you're sending an API request. You would want to handle the error handling for those API requests. Like, what are you going to do if the API is down? And all of that fun stuff. You can put yourself in control of it. So when I put delivery methods on this list, that's what I mean. You can go with the default SMTP details that you're able to set up either for AWS SES or for any of these email providers. I imagine they will all provide SMTP details, but you can also go directly to the API and you can use a custom delivery method. And that delivery method is the mechanism that from memory, that Rails gives you to do that. And it's fun to have a play around with. I did one of these. I think we wanted to do something like different storage of email content based on something. And so we were coming in here and we were modifying headers for something. We were storing stuff locally before the mails went out. We would just do a bunch of stuff in here, and it was fine. It was great as an API. That is worth knowing about, because otherwise you're always you're trying to get into that process, and whereas there is a built-in seam, you're trying to maybe like at the mailer level trying to do stuff, but then you're still passing the .deliver to the SMTP records or something like that. Yeah, all good, worth knowing about. All right, interceptors is the last thing I wanted to mention. Yeah, I think on the whole, just to go back a step, I think on the whole, I'm probably convinced that it's not worth the hassle to use SES for the sake of, I don't know, like $250 a month or something like that. This all seems fine and wonderful. We've sent one email, that's great, blah, blah, blah. Just with all AWS things, like the idea of having to configure so much stuff, care about it all. It sort of like goes back to this idea of like looking at Heroku and Scalingo and things like that, versus you could do the whole thing on AWS yourself. But do you really want to do that? It's not worth your time or money to do that compared to what they're charging. And I saw I saw a tweet yesterday or the day before, and it was if you're selling products or services to developers, they value their time at -$100 an hour, and it's the idea of like, oh well, I'll save $20 because I'll just do 10 hours of config myself and worry about this on an ongoing basis. Like, I don't subscribe to that. Like, just pay the money. So this has been interesting. Like, I'm happy to just pay mail pace for whatever it is, just to never think about this again. And maybe they suck, and where you have to pay more or do something different. But knowing that SCS is pretty simple and straightforward to set up, as long as you're familiar and comfortable in that AWS world of IAM and all of those permissions and things like that, then this all seems fine. But can you be asked to go through and set up all of the, I don't know, is it going to CloudWatch or one of those Firehose services or all of that stuff, or going back into your app? Like, who's got the time for that? You just want to ship the thing and move on. All right, interceptors. Interceptors are super helpful. And I have used these a bunch for, there's an article here, and then there's the main docs here. Let's see if we can, intercepting emails. Interceptors allow you to make modifications to emails before they are handed off to the delivery agents. An interceptor class must implement the delivering email with an argument called message method, which will be called before the email is sent. Before the interceptor can do its job, you need to register it using the interceptor's config option. You can do this in an initializer file like this. Okay, so I have used this before for messing with staging and sandbox emails. So if you remember from last week, we were talking about Heroku review apps a lot, and this idea of having an application that spins up when you make a new pull request, and Heroku will build the application for you, and it can be really good for testing stuff. Well, you don't want that to accidentally start emailing users, for example. But you might want to provide an email service for it so that you can test that emails are going out. So you maybe have a different mailing domain or something like that, or maybe you have like a different ESP altogether, like a little mini one, because you only send fewer emails on Sandbox. What you can do is put an interceptor in to block the emails going out. So you might have an interceptor that is like, hey, it's this example here. It's like, hey, this is staging. If it is, register the Sandbox email interceptor, and this will only send emails to this address. The demo here is exactly what I'm trying to describe. Actually, I don't know why I didn't just look at this. This will override the to field of all of the emails that are about to go out. So the email will still send via whatever output the action mailer has been configured to on staging. It will still send, so you can give it a real mail pace or postmark account for staging, but they will all be delivered to this address. You can, what have we done in the past? Prefixed all of the subject lines so that even if they are going to the same address, you know that they're coming from Sandbox. You can put a custom header in there. You can do whatever you need to do, and you can configure it all at different for different accounts. The other thing that you can do is sort of like have an allow list of emails. So you can have maybe you have like a QA team or something like that, but they're external, or maybe have a group of users that are willing to test things for you on your review apps or something. You could put an array of their email addresses and say, well, if it's in here, then allow it to go through. But if it's not, then modify it somehow and do all of those things. So that is what an interceptor can be used for. But if you could use them for whatever you want, you could use them on production to mess with stuff if you really needed to, like whatever you needed to do. But knowing they exist is really useful, again, because otherwise you find yourself hunting around in your own code, the mailer code, or some sort of delivery code, when in fact this API already exists. So I just want to put it on people's radar that these, and there's another one for observing emails here. So this is after it's sent. If you want to store the content of the email, you want to log the headers out. I don't know what you want to do to it, but like these APIs exist for you to use, so you don't have to build those little seams yourself to use. All right, so what have we done? We have configured SES. We've put in some SMTP. I mean, putting the SMTP details into the config isn't going to be overly interesting, and I'm going to need to figure out how to not show them on the screen, so we'll figure that out another time. We've looked at mail paste, but I have to pay for that up front, which is annoying. I'm going to try and find one that has a free tier. We've discussed email providers all the way through. Services that you might find useful if you are sending email. You should have your domain signed up to both of these services and check them on a regular cadence. And that is probably it for this. If I had found one with a free tier, it would have kind of carried on. Free tier. And none. Will no one give me 1,000 emails a month? No one give me 1,000 emails. Or 500. We're not going to send many. I want the actual... Send in blue. Free plan unlimited contacts. Okay, maybe that's it. Send in blue. Is this one of those ones that's a layer up that is actually a marketing automation platform, not just an ESP? Maybe if they give us a free account, maybe that'll do. Yeah, so this is one of those. So this is an interesting one. This is kind of that layer above the ESP where you will then find another suite of tools that are keen to give you features around storing the user details and then being able to generate emails in their UI, automation and fun things like that. Nothing wrong with using a provider like that, but it is worth knowing the type of provider you're using, the cost implications, the GDPR implications, the unsubscribe implications. Like suddenly there's loads more tools available to you. Whereas one of those kind of more closer to the metal ESPs might just be like, hey, we just send email. You tell us everything about the email and we send it. And then some of the ESPs have tools like this built in that are optional. So like templating tools, automation tools, things like that. Yeah, I was sort of just looking for the free option. I'm going to keep browsing for a second. None of these are... I actually don't need it to be for Rails. I don't know why I've put that in. I sort of... Mailgun have 5,000 free emails a month. Wait, I had Mailgun open. They didn't have that here. It says for 1 month. Is that how they get you? That says 5,000 free emails per month. Try for free trial. There's an ad that has a free... Yeah, I think one of the... That's a trickier wording, which is like... Pricing plans... 5,000 emails a month included. For 1 month. Yeah, that's not the same thing. Although... Yeah, okay, that's not the same thing. That's cheeky. So 7 best transactional email services. I'm just... send in blue. Amazon SES, that's someone just got SendGrid. Actually didn't look at... Oh, okay, MailJet. What's MailJet? Hello, this is 6,000 emails a month, 200 per day. That's free. Okay, so maybe this one could work for us. And then after that, it's 12 quid a month for 15,000. But one of the things that you will one of the things that's good about either using the SMTP API details or using a delivery method is switching these is not overly painful. One of the things that can be really painful when switching ESP provider is the IP address warm up. If you're sending any kind of bulk email, your deliverability will be going up because the email providers, Google, Microsoft, the ones we looked at earlier, will be used to getting emails from you at a certain quantity, at a certain cadence, and with a certain engagement level from certain IP addresses. Maybe that's different if you're using shared resources. Maybe the IP addresses aren't consistent, fair enough. But if you're an established service, you might be paying for specific IP addresses. Let's say you then want to change service. So you want to go from mail jet to mail pace, whatever you want to do. You probably don't want to suddenly start sending huge volumes of emails on a new IP address out of the blue and surprising those email clients at the other end. The details of this are a little bit fuzzy because the email providers don't sort of publish their details of their spam algorithms and all of that fun stuff. But the general guidance I've always been given is like, don't just do a hard cutover. Start sending small volumes of email through the new IP address. Check those tools, those deliverability tools, check that those emails are getting through and that the engagement isn't dropping, and then transition them over. Again, this depends on your volume. If you're only sending 5 emails a day, I think you're good. But if you're sending significant volume, you really need to consider these things. So on a technical level, the transition can be pretty straightforward in terms of like Rails delivery methods or things like that. But the actual swapping of them can be a different level of impact based on your scale. And you also can bump into things where you might be sending some mail from your Rails application, but if you're using one of those email automation tools, you might be sending marketing email from that tool rather than from Rails. Like your weekly newsletter or something might go out via the, WYSIWYG editor in the tool or whatever, but your actual like, hey, here's your receipt, stuff like that might be going out via Rails. And so how are you going to switch them both over? What does that look like? So the more you use of your email provider, the higher the cost of switching is. Whereas at our scale, which is 0, because we're just building a little sandbox application, we just want something that we can fire up for free. But if we did start getting some volume, transitioning would be very low cost because we would just be using the Rails mailer. If we just used SMTP, we could just switch those provider details, switch them over, and then just have all emails go out via the new provider. If we used a delivery method, perhaps we could start introducing the new delivery method to only a percentage of users or something like that. Like we could figure it out. All right, can we get this one for free? I like that it's free. All right, let me just jump some stuff onto the other screen for a second. We're not overly fast at this point because we're just playing with a sandbox application, like about things like custom IP addresses, deliverability, and stuff like that. So all the stuff I said we were going to want to pay a lot of attention to, like for this application at this size, I'm just not paying any attention. I just need some test emails to go out. But we would really want to care if we were really going to do something at scale. Okay, I'm just signing up. I'm just okay. So this is what they're showing us. So what's this little asterisk? I don't like billing with an asterisk that never explains what the asterisk is for. I'm assuming that's like, hey, there might be overages. Okay, let me fill this out off screen again. Because it's going to ask me to put my card details in. and a bunch of questions they might ask. Oh, here we go. Add payment info accounts without a credit card are restricted to our free plan. Okay, great. Oh, cool. It's not going to ask me to put stuff in. Thanks for creating an account with Mailjet. Okay. Well, it looks pretty nice if nothing else. So we should get an email. I'm just going to check for. Give me 2 seconds. Signed up to so many services this morning. I've got nothing but emails. The irony here will be as if this email doesn't arrive, because you really want your emails from your email provider to arrive. If they don't arrive, that's a real bummer. In fact, MailPace had like the speed of their delivery is one of their I mean, look, it's literally the top of their thing. It's like, hey, you ask us to send an email and they get it within seconds. And obviously there's an impact here because you can send the email to Gmail as quick as you like, but Gmail have to show it to the user. So the average is 5.72 seconds. The average for Outlook is under a second. That's pretty impressive from everyone's point of view. This actually hasn't arrived, which is somewhat awkward. Oh wait, let me check my spam folder, because that would actually be pretty funny. Oh no, it has gone into my spam folder. Okay, that is awkward. Okay, well, we're only using it for free. Okay, I'm just gonna click on the link to activate the account. Okay, so then I should be able to get me to my account. Activate. Copy. Okay. Okay. Your Mailjet account will take off in just a few seconds. See, that's a pretty smart question to ask. So we want the developer version. Cool. So here we can see, like, how do you want to use it? Use the API, or you could just use SMTP. Which you use SMTP for now. Get the credentials. I've just realized it's 11:56. I actually have to go in a minute, but we will wire this up. Continue. Get those credentials later. Great. Authenticate the domain, which they have not done because they went into my spam folder. And they've got loads of good onboarding stuff here. Okay, so check out Mailjet because they have a free account. And then you can check out those other providers if you're not too fussed about the freebies. And good luck to everyone who wants to configure email in their application. Hopefully there was some useful information in here. Let me know if people found that useful or not. And we will get emails going out, and we'll write some tests for our emails next week. And have fun emails going out. I'll get these credentials in so we don't have to put them on the screen during the stream. All right, that's it from me because I have to go and see my family. But have a wonderful week. Enjoy yourselves, and I will see you, if not before, then next Sunday for Sunday Club. Have a great week, everyone. Bye-bye.